Biggest foreign stock fund in Taiwan shows shift away from China. China and ASEAN agreed to try to conclude non-aggression pact. UN asks Putin to extend Black Sea grain deal in return for SWIFT access. Hong Kong to ban Japanese seafood if Fukushima wastewater released. Russian general killed and another remains absent. India restricts imports of plain gold jewelry. US E.P.A. tightens limits on lead dust in homes and childcare facilities. Literary star Milan Kundera dies at 94. Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Friday, July 14th, and here are your top stories. A week after making a public offering, Bloomberg reported that Taiwan's largest fund company in terms of assets managed, Yuanda Security Investment Trust Co., gathered a targeted $20 billion by Friday for its Japan fund. The strong demand for Japanese shares coincides with investors' pullback from Chinese stocks as the world's second-largest economy struggles to recover, reflecting local investors' keen demand for their neighbors' booming share market as they retreat from China. Yuanda's Japan Fund provides an alternative for Taiwan investors, betting on companies including technology firms and medical device makers as the share market of Asia's second-largest economy reaches a three-decade high. China remains the second most popular overseas destination for Taiwanese investors after the U.S., but their holdings are declining. According to Taiwan's Financial Supervisory Commission data, as of May, the country's funds cut their China exposure this year by 14.6%, which is the equivalent of $39.2 billion NT dollars. During a meeting between the foreign ministers of the 10 ASEAN nations and China's top diplomat Wang Yi in Jakarta on Thursday, China and the 10-nation bloc agreed to try and conclude a long-delayed non-aggression pact, which aims at preventing the frequent territorial spats in the busy South China Sea from turning into a major armed conflict within 3 years. A Southeast Asian diplomat involved in the meetings told the Associated Press that both have agreed to guidelines to complete their code of conduct negotiations before fall 2026.
双方正在积极推进自贸区3.0版的谈判。
According to the guidelines, a joint working group by China and ASEAN should endeavor to conclude the negotiation of an effective and substantive code of conduct in accordance with international law, including the 1982 UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, within a 3-year timeline or earlier. The AP reported that Chinese negotiators have proposed that the code of conduct restrict the presence and activities of foreign forces in the disputed waters. Southeast Asian diplomats have said that U.S. allies involved in the talks were opposed, given their stance that Washington serves a crucial role as a counterweight to Beijing in the region. Reuters reported that UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has proposed to Russian President Vladimir Putin that he extend a deal allowing the safe Black Sea export of grain from Ukraine in return for connecting a subsidiary of Russia's agricultural bank to the SWIFT international payment system. A UN spokesman said on Wednesday that Guterres sent a letter to Putin on Tuesday proposing a way forward to further facilitate Russian food and fertilizer exports and ensure the continued Black Sea shipments of Ukrainian grain. Russia has threatened to ditch the grain deal, which expires on Monday, because several demands to dispatch its own grain and fertilizer abroad have not been met. The last 2 ships under the agreement are currently loading cargoes at the Ukrainian port of Odessa ahead of the deadline. A key demand by Moscow is the reconnection of the Russian agricultural bank, Bank, to the SWIFT international payment network. It was cut off by the European Union in June 2022 over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Hong Kong plans to ban imports of seafood and other aquatic products from 10 Japanese regions if the nation discharges treated wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The products in the proposed ban include all live, frozen, chilled, dried, or otherwise preserved aquatic products, sea salt, and seaweed. The Hong Kong government said it concluded it's not possible to guarantee that the water purification system used by TAPCO will operate successfully for the duration of the discharge. Hong Kong said if the Japanese authorities have sufficient confidence in the treatment of the wastewater, they should seek suitable domestic use instead of discharging it into the ocean. China, the top buyer of Japanese seafood, has said the ocean is not Japan's private sewer and has extended a ban on food imports from Fukushima. Even though a South Korean government panel backed Japan's plan, the country already has a ban in place on seafood imports from the site and some surrounding districts. On Wednesday, mystery deepened over the fate of General Surgeek Sora, the country's former top commander in Ukraine, who has been dubbed General Armageddon for his ruthless tactics and who has not been seen since the Wagner rebellion. One of the country's top lawmakers said, when pressed by a reporter, that the general was taking a rest. The head of the Russian Duma's Defense Committee, Andrei Kotopurov, said he is unavailable right now.
General Sergei Surovikin, the deputy head of Russia's military operations in Ukraine, as well as head of the Russian aerospace forces, has not been seen in public.
General Surovikin was considered to be an ally of Yevgeny V. Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner mercenary company, whose forces mounted the brief insurrection in late June aimed at toppling Russia's military leadership before later standing down in a deal with the Kremlin. The New York Times reported in a series of hits, another Russian general was killed in an airstrike in Ukraine. Another accused his leadership of treachery after being fired. A fourth general was gunned down while out on a jog in what may have been an organized hit.
India on Wednesday restricted imports on plain gold jewelry as the world's second largest consumer of the precious metal tries to plug loopholes in its trade policy. The move comes as importers over the last few months have been using a policy flaw to source plain gold jewelry from Indonesia without paying any import taxes. India levies a 15% tax on gold imports, but import under the India-United Arab Emirates Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement will be allowed without any license.
Union Budget 2020-21 is likely to cut the import duty on gold from the...
A Mumbai-based dealer with a private bullion importing bank said Indonesia was never a gold jewelry supplier to India, but in the last few months, bullion dealers imported 3 to 4 tons from Indonesia without paying any import taxes. He said many dealers got to know about the loophole and they were also trying to source from Indonesia. The policy change has closed that loophole. A government notification said import of articles of gold have been put under the restriction category from the free category.
The Biden administration on Wednesday proposed to strengthen requirements for the removal of lead-based paint dust in homes and child care facilities built before 1978, an effort to eliminate exposure to lead that could require millions of property owners to pay for abatement. If finalized, the Environmental Protection Agency estimates that the regulation would reduce exposure to lead for as many as 500,000 young children per year. The proposed regulation would not require property owners or child care facilities to proactively test for lead dust.
Just 2 weeks ago, the Quinnipiac Valley Health District shut down a child care center to test for lead.
However, if a young child showed symptoms of lead exposure through a blood test or other measure, it could trigger state and local requirements for testing. Results that confirm the presence of any level of lead dust would require property owners to pay for cleanup. The regulation would apply to facilities regularly used by children 6 years old or younger, including child care centers, preschools, and kindergarten classrooms. Lead is a neurotoxin, and exposure can damage the brain and nervous system, particularly in babies and small children.
The author of The Unbearable Lightness of Being, Milan Kundera, the Communist Party outcast who became a global literary star with modern sexually charged novels that capture the suffocating absurdity of life in the workers' paradise of his native Czechoslovakia, died on Tuesday in Paris. He was 94. A spokeswoman for publisher Gallimard confirmed the death, saying it came after a prolonged illness. Kundera had said he strove to discover that which the novel alone can discover, including the truth of uncertainty.
For not just his friends, but it's a sad day, I think, for those who were attached to his literary genius.
Mr. Kundera's run of popular books began with The Joke, which was published to acclaim in 1967. Around the time of the Prague Spring, his most enduringly popular novel, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, was published in 1984 and has been reprinted in at least 24 languages. The novel drew even wider attention when it was adapted into a 1988 film starring Daniel Day-Lewis as one of its central characters, Thomas, a Czech surgeon who criticized the communist leadership.
Now let's delve into the news of Milan Kundera passed away at 94. Number 1. Outcast. 被抛弃者,被排斥者. People with the disease were often treated as social outcasts. Number 2. Mordant. 尖刻又风趣的,讽刺幽默的. His mordant wit appealed to students. Number 3. Suffocate. 是窒息而死,闷死. She felt suffocated by all the rules and regulations. Number 4. Absurdity. 荒谬,荒唐. The proposal borders upon the absurdity. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer down in a comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.
这一次加薪的幅度呢，我认为会是落在10%到15%这样的一个区间。跟其他员工最大的不同的部分呢，是我能够就像刚刚提到的，我可以在一个企划案还没有生成的时候，我可以先有一个远大的目标，我能够知道整个 big picture 是什么东西。
不好意思。
我的针对于这样的一个认可度，我大概有70-80%的把握，我可以获得升迁及加薪。
Johnny， 那个非常不好意思，我可能要在这边告知你，你已经被资遣了。对，是真的非常抱歉。那可能要麻烦你在下礼拜5之前，就是把你的个人物品先收拾干净，这样。有没有什么事我可以帮你的吗？那如果没有什么问题的话，再麻烦你把你的员工证交回给原主管，这样。好，那如果没有什么问题的话，我们今天就到这边。真的非常不好意思。
我可以知道是什么原因吗？
有同仁反映，最近冰箱的食物很常不见，我常常看到你在附近徘徊。我买的面包也是买了，然后1个下午就不见了。你该不会知道什么？
我不知道。
What we do, master your English and become irreplaceable in the workplace. Join Funday now. No matter your English level, we can help you elevate your competitiveness. Funday.